He was known as the King, and he ruled the wrestling world with an iron fist. 8-time NWA World Champion, a legend who battled the best, and a man shrouded in controversy. This is the story of Harley Race. Born on April 11, 1943 in Quitman, Missouri, Race was destined to become something big, but his childhood was far from glamorous. He grew up in a rural area, a tiny town, barely a blip on the map, where everyone knew everyone. Growing up in a place like this, you learn about hard work pretty quick, and Harley was no exception. He spent his days helping out on the family farm, taking care of the animals, and doing all those chores that come with country life. But even as a kid, he had this other passion. He loved professional wrestling. The whole thing just fascinated him. Those larger-than-life characters, the athleticism, the drama. It was a whole different world. He'd go to these local shows and just get lost in it all. I guess God liked his determination because the next thing you saw was Harley working on a farm owned by two former wrestling champions. They saw this kid who was just obsessed with wrestling, and they took him under their wing. Everything seemed perfect until one day he woke to find himself plagued by a terrible disease. Yes, you guessed it right. Harley Race was diagnosed with polio. Back then, polio was a big deal. There wasn't a cure, and lots of kids ended up with lifelong disabilities. Harley had to spend time in the hospital, away from his family and his friends, going through treatments and trying to get better. It wasn't easy. He had to learn how to walk again, how to use his muscles, how to do all those things that most of us take for granted. But Harley, even as a young boy, had this incredible fighting spirit. He wasn't going to let polio beat him. And you know what? He did it. He beat polio. He got his strength back, and he was ready to take on the world. But that experience, that fight against polio, it really shaped him. As Harley grew older, his love for wrestling only grew stronger. By the time he was a teenager, he decided to leave high school and focus on pursuing his dream. He began training under Gus Karras, a local wrestling promoter who saw potential in Harley. At just 15 years old, Harley finally stepped into the ring for the first time. He was young and inexperienced, but his raw strength and determination made him stand out. But in 1961, when Harley was only 18 years old, tragedy struck his life. He was involved in a serious car accident that killed his first wife and left him with severe injuries. Doctors even considered amputating one of his legs, but Harley refused to accept that. With months of intense rehabilitation and an unbreakable spirit, he managed to recover and return to wrestling. From here onward, he was unstoppable. One of the most significant moments in Harley's early career came when he teamed up with Larry Hennig, a fellow wrestler. Together, they became known as the Dolly Sisters, a name given to them by a promoter as a joke. Despite the odd name, the duo quickly became one of the most dominant tag teams in wrestling. Harley and Larry worked well together, combining their strength and skill to defeat opponents across the territory. Their success as a tag team helped Harley gain even more recognition in the wrestling world. As Harley continued to grow as a wrestler, his reputation as a tough competitor spread. He wasn't the flashiest wrestler, but he was one of the most reliable and consistent performers in the ring. Harley's style was straightforward and no-nonsense, focusing on technical skills and physical toughness. Fans appreciated his honest approach to wrestling, and he started to build a loyal following. By the time Harley Race was in his early 20s, it was clear that he was destined for greatness. He had already overcome more challenges than most people face in a lifetime, and he was just getting started. Harley's big break came when he started competing for the National Wrestling Alliance, or NWA. If you don't know, the NWA was the pinnacle of wrestling at the time. Winning their World Heavyweight Championship was like winning the Super Bowl, the World Series, and the Olympics all rolled into one. And Harley didn't just win the title once, he won it 8 times. Think about that. 8 times he climbed to the top of the mountain. What made Harley so special wasn't just his skill in the ring, though. It was his presence. Harley had this ability to make you believe in the fight. When he stepped into the ring, it didn't feel like just another wrestling match. It felt like a real battle, a test of wills. Fans couldn't take their eyes off him, whether they loved him or loved to hate him. Over the years, Harley wrestled for promotions all across the country, including the American Wrestling Association, or AWA. He was a force to be reckoned with everywhere he went. Promoters loved him because he could draw a crowd, and fans respected him because he gave it his all, every single night. But Harley's story wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. Like a lot of wrestlers, he had his fair share of controversies. One of the most infamous incidents happened in the early 1970s when Harley was involved in a bar fight that resulted in the death of another man. He was charged with manslaughter, but he was later acquitted. It was a dark chapter in his life, and while the details are murky, it's clear that the incident left a mark on him. Then there was the controversy at the 1986 Great American Bash. During a match with Junkyard Dog, it was alleged that Harley used a racial slur. Now, some accounts suggest it was actually a fan in the crowd who said it, but the incident has been debated for years. Either way, it's a reminder that Harley's career, like anyone's, wasn't without its flaws. But let's be real, Harley was also known for his tough, no-nonsense personality. If someone disrespected him, inside or outside the ring, Harley didn't hesitate to stand his ground. Stories about his physical altercations with other wrestlers are legendary. And honestly, they just add to the aura of Harley Race as one of the toughest men to ever lace up a pair of boots. By the late 1990s, Harley's in-ring career was winding down. Years of punishing matches had taken a toll on his body, and he retired from active competition in 2004. But Harley wasn't done with wrestling. Far from it. In 1999, Harley founded World League Wrestling, or WLW, a promotion dedicated to training and developing young wrestlers. This was Harley giving back to the business that had given him so much. He wasn't just teaching people how to wrestle, he was teaching them how to respect the craft, how to tell a story, and how to carry themselves like professionals. For Harley, it wasn't about the money, it was about passing the torch to the next generation. Harley wrestled all over the country and even around the world, bringing his unique style to every promotion he worked for. But the hard-hitting, no-nonsense style that made him a legend also left him with countless injuries. Harley was known for putting his body on the line in every match. And while fans saw the spectacle, the truth was that every suplex, every slam, and every chair shot added up. By the time Harley reached his later years, those decades of punishment caught up with him. He underwent numerous surgeries, including hip replacements and operations on his knees. His back was a constant source of pain. Wrestling is tough on everyone, but for a guy like Harley who lived and breathed the sport for so long, the wear and tear were brutal. He walked with a cane in his later years, and sometimes he needed a wheelchair to get around. But even as his body slowed down, Harley never stopped being Harley Race. In 2019, Harley faced the toughest battle of his life when he was diagnosed with lung cancer. Cancer is a cruel opponent, but Harley approached it the same way he approached everything else, with resilience and determination. He continued making appearances even when it must have been exhausting. Fans who met him during this time talk about how he still had that twinkle in his eye, that spark that made him the king of the ring. He never let cancer define him, even as his health declined. Harley passed away on August 1st, 2019 at the age of 76. It was a heartbreaking loss for the wrestling community, but even in death, Harley's legacy shines brightly. He wasn't just another wrestler, he was a symbol of toughness, passion, and dedication. When people talk about Harley Race's legacy, it's not just about the championships, though those are undeniably impressive. 8-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion, that's not just a statistic, that's history. The NWA title was the most prestigious championship in wrestling at the time, and holding it wasn't just about winning matches, it was about representing the business. Being the NWA World Heavyweight Champion meant you were trusted to carry the sport on your back, and Harley did that better than almost anyone. But Harley's legacy goes beyond the gold belts and the packed arenas. What really set him apart was the way he inspired people. Ask any wrestler who came after him, and they'll tell you the same thing. Harley Race was a measuring stick. He was the guy you looked up to, the guy you wanted to emulate. Wrestlers like Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, and Terry Funk, some of the biggest names in the business, spoke with nothing but respect when they talked about Harley. Ric Flair often called Harley one of the toughest men he'd ever met, and coming from someone like Ric, that's saying something. Even after he retired from wrestling, Harley wasn't done shaping the industry. In 1999, he founded World League Wrestling, a promotion dedicated to training young wrestlers. Now, this wasn't just some small-time operation. Harley poured his heart and soul into teaching the next generation. He didn't just want to train wrestlers. He wanted to instill in them the same respect for the business that he had. For Harley, wrestling was sacred. He believed in its power to entertain, to tell stories, and to connect with fans. And he wanted the people he trained to feel the same way. Wrestlers who came through Harley's school often talk about how much he pushed them, not just physically, but mentally. He taught them to think like wrestlers, to understand the psychology of a match, and to always give the fans their money's worth. He wasn't just a coach, he was a mentor. Wrestlers who trained under Harley often went on to have successful careers, and many of them credit him with shaping their path. He was known for being tough but fair, someone who would tell you exactly what you needed to hear, even if it wasn't what you wanted to hear. That honesty earned him respect from everyone who worked with him. When Harley passed away, the outpouring of love and respect from the wrestling world was overwhelming. Wrestlers from all generations shared stories about how Harley had impacted their lives. Triple H, for example, has often talked about how much Harley inspired him. He even helped arrange for WWE to honor Harley in the years before his death, knowing how important it was to recognize his contributions to the industry. But it wasn't just the big names who remembered Harley. Fans from all over the world shared their memories of meeting him at conventions or watching him wrestle live. Harley had a way of connecting with people, whether it was through his larger-than-life presence in the ring or a quiet conversation at an autograph table. Harley's influence can still be felt in wrestling today. His style, his toughness, and his commitment to storytelling are qualities that many wrestlers strive to emulate, and his legacy as a mentor ensures that his impact will be felt for generations to come. Every time a young wrestler steps into the ring and gives it their all, a little bit of Harley's spirit is there. At the end of the day, Harley Race was more than just a wrestler. He was a pioneer, a teacher, and a symbol of what it means to love the craft of professional wrestling. He wasn't perfect. He had his flaws like anyone. But he never stopped being true to himself. And in a business that's all about larger-than-life characters, Harley Race was the real deal. So when we talk about Harley Race's legacy, we're talking about something that goes far beyond the matches or the titles. We're talking about a man who dedicated his life to a sport he loved, who inspired generations of wrestlers, and who left behind a legacy that will never be forgotten. Harley may be gone, but the mark he left on wrestling will last forever. And that, my friends, is what makes him a true king. What made Harley so special wasn't just his toughness or his championships. It was his love for the sport and the respect he showed for it. That respect is something that lives on in the wrestlers he trained, the fans he inspired, and the countless people who still look up to him today. Harley's story reminds us of the power of dedication, passion, and perseverance, no matter what challenges life throws your way. Thank you so much for watching this video and taking this journey with me through the life of the King. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow. And if you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss an upload. I'd also love to hear from you in the comments. What's your favorite memory of Harley Race? Is there a moment in his career that stands out to you, or maybe a story you've heard about him that you'd like to share? Let's keep the conversation going and celebrate the legacy of this wrestling legend together. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, take care, stay safe, and keep the love for wrestling alive. See you soon.